when I arrived in Spain, I knew zero Spanish. I knew how to say hola, tengo hambre, cerveza, el gorrocóptero, la puerta mágica, y Doraemon puede hacer que se cumpla todos. So basically, that's what I knew from Spanish, was the entire intro from Doraemon and a couple of sentences. Everyone. I want to do stuff, but apparently everything keeps getting in the way this morning. I was able to, tidy the bed and wash the dishes from last night's dinner. And I was able to sit down, do some stretching because, mornings are hard for me, and with the cold, worse. But anyways, I wanted to sit down and actually do some studying. Yesterday I was able to review. If you guys don't know, I am studying French. I guess by now, if you follow me on Instagram, you know my struggle with the verbs. So today's plan is to actually review futur proche, which I have no idea. I don't remember a thing, but maybe when I start seeing the verbs, something clicks in me, because I did remember for the passé composé there was a house involved. I kind of in the back of my mind, a memory popped up from watching a little house with some verbs in and out, like walking, dying, coming to life, stuff like that. There were the little verbs from the house. And yeah, that was bloop, and that kind of helped actually when I did a small exercise to see how much I remembered from that. And apparently I did remember quite a lot. I just a couple of verbs were they were not this, it were that. Anyways, but I was sitting down with my test mug with a coffee, and someone rings the bell and my printer arrived. This week we have been going out a little bit more, as you can see by the previous images. But yesterday we went out on a couple of errands, and then we came back home because it was raining a lot, so I was able to, do a couple of things around the house. And this week I actually bought a book in Fnac. And I managed to bring only one book because I'm trying to be quite practical about what I buy, because in this apartment we don't have that much storage and, space to put stuff. So I'm trying to be really, really practical about what I buy. And as we were talking about, I am learning French again. I'm going to start classes next Monday. But meanwhile, I'm reviewing a couple of things as it was suggested by my examiner. And so I remembered like something that I really like to do, which is reading. And I've been trying to read a little bit. But for example, when I arrived in Spain, I knew zero Spanish. I knew how to say hola, tengo hambre, cerveza, el gorrocóptero, la puerta mágica, y Doraemon puede hacer que se cumpla todos. So basically, that's what I knew from Spanish, was the entire intro from Doraemon and a couple of sentences. And one way, I didn't go to school to learn Spanish. I didn't take a Spanish course. What I did was I directly dove into the language by taking a fashion design and industrial patterning superior course, which is basically a professional course but for a higher level. It's literally a professional course. It's not like a university degree or something, but it's not like super like beginners thing that a kid would do. So it was basically adults. So basically what I did, that helped me to gain vocabulary and also learn the technical terms for sewing and patterning and all of these things, which ended up helping me a lot because I was teaching for the last 2 years. I was teaching in Spain what I know how to do. And here I also want to teach. And even though there are lots of immigrants and I can teach in Spanish and I can teach in Portuguese and I can do it in English as well, I also want to learn French as fast as possible. And so one way I can do it is I can either go back to school and learn the language, which I've already enrolled in a course. It's a night course for French. It will be 2 nights per week, for like 6 hours a week or something like that, besides of course the independent study and everything. But like that won't teach me the technical vocabulary for like, you know, sewing and crafting and the materials and all of those things, because that will teach me more practical things that I need to know on my daily basis, you know, and function in society, which is really, really good. But if I want to work in this area eventually, I need to learn the technical terms. So I can either go and add another diploma to my long list, which I'm not interested in right now. I'm not saying I won't in the future, but for now, no thank you. So reading books. Because in college, I did read a lot of stuff in Italian and French, even though I was not fluent in the language. Well, when I was in college, I was able to speak a little bit more French than I do right now, because I was fresh out of high school. I was reading a lot. Now, I haven't spoken in French since I stopped being a tour guide back in 2011. So yeah, that's how long I haven't spoken French, like besides like the bonjour, au revoir, bientôt, that sort of things, you know. So yeah, so I went to FNAC and I did browse for, you know, sewing books, because these are technical. And even though this is like beginner entry kind of thing, I will eventually get something on patterning. I did take a few photos for reference for other books that I want to buy eventually, so I can, you know, see more technical terms and stuff. But this will be perfect to start, because it does have a lot of photos. It has some patterning things actually, and it has like, you know, symbols and everything. And it seemed to me on a first glance that it was quite interesting to get to know, you know, how some techniques are called and something like that. This is not like super beginning level, but it's not like super advanced either. And yeah, I can see like, you know, materials, how the materials are called and how stuff are called. So that's really good to me. And because it is technical, with a little French that I have, I will be able to pick it up quite fast. Because again, my goal is to, you know, first, reading in French is, I mean, when you're learning a language, reading in that language, it's quite interesting for you, because you will get more vocabulary. So unconsciously you will be seeing the words, how they are written, how the sentences are composed, and how people write and talk, and those things. Like the more you read, the more you'll get a feel of how things are actually done, because you will be learning by repetition, basically, besides studying all the things you are seeing that's written. That's one thing I actually did a lot when I wanted to polish my English. Was I started reading more in English, and I read so much in English that at some point I had a teacher actually telling me that the way I was writing in Portuguese was being affected because I was writing in Portuguese. It was correct, but the way I was building my sentences were like I was a native English speaker. So I actually started forcing myself to read in Portuguese. That's when I started finding a couple of Portuguese authors so I could read, because I don't like to read translations unless they're from a language I don't know. But yeah, and I found that for French, actually, I could never read a novel. I always had problems in reading a novel in French, even when I was in school and I had to read an entire book in French. I could get the gist of it, but I couldn't get the teeny tiny details. Those were phew! But when I was in college, I had no problems in reading technical books. So I did this when I got to Spain. I found a couple of Spanish, sewing and patterning for dummies, the dummies books. I got those in Spanish, and I was trying to find in French, but they have a different title. And now I'm forgetting now, but I'll leave it here. But anyways, so here it was okay, this worked for Spanish to learn, to start reading a little bit and to learn the technical terms. So I'm going to do the same here. But here I did saw the For Dummies editions for sewing, but I ended up preferring to get something like this that's a little bit more complete, also a little bit more expensive. This was 33 euros and 60 cents. But this seemed really, really cool. Even though I do have another French book by the cosplayer Nikita, I have her first book in French, and I could read it perfectly without any problems. But I want to get a little bit more into it, so this is going to be my plan. I'll try to put my Bridgerton reading in the middle with the Manuel pratique de la couture. And since I'm going to start French classes soon, it's really cool because if I have any questions, I can just ask my teacher. So, yay! And yeah, so for today, I'm going to set up the printer. I haven't set up a printer in years. I mean, I only had one printer in my life, and it was an all-in-one printer scanner copier from HP, and I got it... Well, I started college in 2007, so maybe 2003, 2004, something like that, when I started high school, basically, on 10th grade. So, and that was the only printer I got. And now this is a little bit more, I don't know, there are more stuff than plug in a cable and put a CD-ROM and installing it in your desktop, which brings me to another adventure today with the delivery system here in Belgium, which basically sucks. Which is basically, I was here, they ring the bell, and when I go down, there was a printer waiting for me by the elevator. And I was waiting for, I was hoping it was an Amazon package. I'm really happy it's a printer, but anyone that would go by or that would enter the building would see that there was a really expensive piece of equipment by the elevator, because they could at least wrap the box in something so people wouldn't see what it was. But no, there was this box waiting for me, for everyone to see and to help. It wasn't even hidden from the site, so anyone who would pass by the front door of the building would see that there was a printer waiting right there. You wouldn't even need to because at least they could have put it like a little bit more to the right or the left, wherever. They could put it a little bit hidden from, passerby people that would go by the building door. I mean, I don't go by other people's buildings looking to see if there's a package there, but I don't know. I just don't feel like it's safe. Like, I mean, when they were delivering the hair fryer, which was like 80 euros, when they were delivering the hair fryer, they were like, oh, we need to have a code for us to deliver, and you have to give us the code in person. It can't be by a phone call or a message or by the speaker thingy in your apartment. And they weren't going to deliver the air fryer. This piece of equipment costs a little bit more than 80 euros, and they were just like, what the heck? At least I was at home and I could go down immediately. But Jesus, the delivery system here, it's scary. So like, if I'm waiting for something really expensive, I need to really be at home. Otherwise, I don't know. How do they justify it's delivered? And how do I justify I didn't get it, If someone steals the box, I mean, it's quite heavy. Jesus, I don't understand Belgium. They have paperwork for basically everything. They have like apps for everything, but then delivering things, bye. I just don't get it. But anyways, I'm going to hit pause on that. I'm going to review my verbs now, and hopefully I'll set this up and I'll print, because I do have printer paper somewhere in this apartment. Oh, there it is. I know I bought paper for inkjet printer. It's basic paper, okay, nothing fancy. Normal copier paper. But yeah, I'll test this out eventually. I still need to finish a bunch of sketches as well, because I just been all over the place lately. I haven't been able to do much these last few days. Don't because still taking care of stuff. So yeah, let's go study a little bit.